Okay, so post-editing Micah here. Before this episode begins, I just want to start out by addressing the fact that this episode is coming out on 9/11, and I just want to give like a moment of silence and a salute to the fallen soldiers and fallen firefighters that helped during that horrible time for our country in their darkest hour. We appreciate you, old firefighters, and everybody who played a role in saving others during that horrible day. All right, I'll let the video start now. Well, the Titans lost week 1. I wasn't too happy about it, but I'm still not completely out on this team yet. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I am your host, Micah McCamey, and in today's episode, it may be a little bit sad as it stands right now. You know, we may be a little upset, and the fan base is just in complete turmoil right now. But hey, it's week 1, and we have not as much to worry about as people are saying we do. So, that leads me into today's episode topic. This is the week 1 review. Now, instead of doing the rating system where I rate offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff, this time I'm just going to go over some quick positives and negatives, and I'm hoping that that will be a lot more simple for me at least, because sometimes I would get a little lost. But let's get right on into what I have to talk about here. This may be a little bit of a shorter episode, but it's just a game review, so it's not going to be too intense, and then I'll talk about who we have next week. All right, here we go. Let's start out with the positives. Let's keep it light for the first little bit. Okay, first off, the first half, we played really good football. Like, it's not like I see this team and I think, man, they got away with so much during this game, man. You know, they were just looking really bad from start to finish. There was no motivation, and the roster just looked absolutely terrible. Like, that's not how it felt, to me at least. Like, it felt like that, especially in that first half, they were playing with some motivation. They looked like they were doing pretty good, but it ended up being just a little bit going downhill after that first half. But I did like how he looked, and it gives me hope that there is still potential for this team to at least be solid. And it's not like last year whenever I saw that first game and then that third game, and I just completely lost my mind because of those games, you know? Like, it was a lot different from that because, first off, we may be a little bit more consistent this year, at least through the first 4 weeks. But the other thing is that, at the very least, our team looks talented. Like, they may not look like great, but they look at least decently talented. I think there's something to work with there. So that's the first thing about the first half. Second thing, defense was consistent throughout the entire game. They absolutely put Caleb Williams into a blanket, and they absolutely just destroyed that offense. The receiver core wasn't getting too much going. Now, DJ Moore had a better game against L'Jarius Sneed than he did last year, but he still wasn't like amazing or anything. Like, he was all right, but like he wasn't the not Justin Fields, the Caleb Williams safety blanket that everybody was expecting him to be. Let me think, what else was there? Defensive line was good today, man. Like, they were not letting up anything for most of the game, at least. There were a couple of plays right at the end where it looked a little bit, whatever. But apart from that, like, they played pretty solid. Secondary was just as good as it was hyped up to be. Like, dude, again, I already covered that, but like, dude, that secondary was good today. Like, it was really good. Linebacker core surprised me. It didn't look like that they were getting as destroyed as I thought they were. Like, I thought that they were just going to get absolutely crushed today, especially since Ernest Jones wasn't starting. Man, imagine what it's going to be like whenever Ernest Jones is starting. That is going to be something scary to look at. But overall, solid day by the defense. This game was not their fault. They put in a winning effort, and we did not capitalize on it. Okay, next thing. Pollard looked really good today. Like, whenever he was getting the ball, he looked very solid. Like, he had that really long touchdown, and that drive alone was just kind of carried by him. He was getting good plays. He had some he had some bad plays as well, but that was mostly because of the offensive line, which we'll get to later. But like overall, good day from Pollard. And I don't really have that much else to say. Calvin Ridley, you are going to get fooled by the stat sheet. See, they only had like 3 receptions for 50 yards, and you're going to think, same old Calvin Ridley, bad game. Well, here I am to tell you, my friend, that that was not a bad game by Calvin Ridley. And that the reason that he didn't have more receiving yards was because of Will Levis. And I will outright admit that. He had 2 plays where he was just open, very open. I won't say wide open because there was only one of those where he was wide open. But like he had 2 plays where he was very open and that Will Levis just did not throw a good pass to him. He didn't get it up to Calvin Ridley like he should have. He underthrew one, which I understood that first one because he got grabbed by the shoulder right as he released it. So like maybe I can excuse that, but like that other one was inexcusable. No pressure in your face. Calvin Ridley streaking down the sideline wide open, and you cannot hit that pass. Got to hit that pass. Anyway, yeah, no, Ridley looked a lot better than people will say he did, but still like wasn't insane or anything. And the rest of the receiver core was just kind of whatever. Like Treylon Burks wasn't really that good. DeAndre Hopkins was coming off of an injury, so he wasn't going to look that great. Chig had a really nice touchdown catch. I didn't hear anything about Wiley today. Boyd, he got a really good first down on 4th and 3, but that's about all I can really think of for him. Anyway, now let's move on to the negatives. This is the thing that you have been waiting for. I know that because, man, there were a lot of negatives to this game. Starting out, Will Levis was absolutely horrible. He was trash, and he just did not play a good game today. He was the reason that we lost this game. Bad pick 6. The fumble, again, J.C. Latham completely missed his defensive lineman on that one. But, like, first off, he doesn't need to hold on to the ball that long. Second off, dude, man, like, you've got to feel that. Like, you've got to know that somebody is coming in right behind you whenever you see that. Like, you've got to at least, like, step up into the pocket or something. You know, I got this thing pointed out to me on the pick 6. He drove left straight into the pressure. He didn't climb up in the pocket and try and deliver a dime. He drove into the pressure, then he stood back and threw that horrible pass. I'll show it on screen right now. I'm going to have to rewatch that to put that in there, but threw an absolutely horrible pass. Looked like some type of thing that a knockoff Mahomes would want to do. Like, that's something that I think Dylan Raiola would do if he was given the chance. A freshman at Nebraska right now. Like, that's something that he would do. Just pitch it up, blanketed coverage, defensive back gets the easiest interception of his life, pick 6. Like, we can't have that happening. And overall, just wasn't really that great of a day from Levis. Am I panicking? No. Am I slightly worried? A little bit. All right, next one. O-line started out really strong in that first half. Like, they were moving bodies. They were making sure that Levis had time in the pocket. They had some really good run blocking for that first half. But then the second half hit. And yes, Dylan Radins got hurt like right before the 4th quarter started. Yes, Rupsich had to play, but even before that, like Latham got bullied, which I'm not upset about because he's a rookie. You know, he's going to make those mistakes. Then there was also Skronsky, who in the second half did not have a good game. Penalty, then allowed a pressure. Like, come on, man, you can't do that. Then the rest of the O-line, I didn't really have that much to say about. I think NPF was fine, if anything. He was one of the better offensive linemen on this O-line, which is shocking, honestly. Radins was playing pretty good before he got hurt. And Lloyd Cushenberry is just that consistent, solid center. If there's anybody that's going to be good on that O-line this year, it's going to be him. Anyway, overall, like the O-line just started to kind of fade at the end of that game, but I'm not completely upset about that because that is potentially the youngest group in our on our team. I think that the oldest is like 25 or 26. Like, that is something that needs to be taken into mind whenever you see this offensive line. Like, they're young, they're going to be figuring it out as the season goes along, and I think they're going to get better. Okay, second thing, special teams. I thought that things had changed. I thought Colt Anderson came in and worked some absolute miracle juice up and just turned things completely around, turned the tide for the special teams. But I think I may have been wrong on that. Because, oh my gosh, like, we were letting up big kick returns the entire day, good punt returns. We had a punt blocked, which changed the entire momentum of this game. Overall, special teams just really did not play good. And the special teams and the offense owes an apology to the defense for the game that they played. Because the defense did everything in their fiber that they could just to keep us in this game, while the offense and the special teams looked like they didn't want to win it at all. So there's that. I don't really have that much to say about the special teams. Nick Folk had a pretty good field goal. That's all I can really think of. And just overall, Stonehouse looked pretty decent, but like just overall, just not a good day by this special teams unit. If they would have played better, I don't think it would have changed as much, because I still think the defense would have played good, and I still think that the offense wouldn't have gotten into a groove. But anyway, moving on, Tyjae Spears. Oh, man. This one was potentially the most disappointing out of all of these. I mean, one of them is technically not meant to be disappointing, but Spears, man. Actually, this is the second most disappointing, but Spears, like, come on, what are we doing? Like, he had like one or two good runs, and then it was kind of downhill from there. Like, whenever he didn't break that tackle from that linebacker, whenever he was like just a yard short of that first down on 3rd and 3, I was thinking, man, dude, last year's Spears would have shaken that dude off and gotten a first down. Like, I don't know if it's like some type of mental thing where it's like he thinks, oh, since I have Pollard, now I can relax a little bit because we're both going to be used equally. But, like, it did not look good for him out there, at least. So, anyway, again, Spears, disappointment, honestly, is the only word that I can use. But we got to move on to this next one. This is the last one for the disappointments, at least whenever it comes to the game itself. I got one more that doesn't have to do, or it does have to do with the game, but what didn't happen during the game. Offensive play calling. I totally thought that this would look like new, fresh, energetic, like it would be like this young offensive mind coming in, making like a really solid offensive play calls, like passing it a pretty solid amount, mixing in a couple of runs, but using those mostly so that way you can hit the play action and hit some deep balls. But no, it was the ultimate Mike Vrabel offense out there today. Run, pass, punt, repeat. Like, apart from those two really good drives that we had down the field, like apart from that, there was nothing going on offense. There was nothing going on with offensive play calling today. It was flat out just sad, honestly. Like, I need to see the offensive play calling get more creative, because I'm not panicking about that right now because it's Callahan's first game as a head coach. But it was so weird because he was calling really well during the preseason. And I know preseason isn't really like a huge indicator of like, oh yeah, watch out for, I don't know, insert head coach here. He's going to really light the league on fire because he was, doing really good in preseason. But like, I did not see what I saw today in that preseason. Same thing with Will Levis, but Will Levis, he was playing against second stringers. And Brian Callahan was still coaching against really good head coaches. Like, he coached against Shanahan, Mike McDonald, and, oh man, who was that last one? Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is the exception to the rule, but those first two are going to be pretty darn good head coaches. Like, I just don't understand, man, how on earth that happened. But I'm hoping that was just like a shake-off game, not wanting to show everything in week 1. And I'm hoping that, in week 2, like, I'm hoping that we were looking ahead to the Jets, but we'll get to that. But overall, just not that great by offensive play calling. Callahan, step it up next week. All right. This was the final negative that I had. This has nothing to do with what happened in the game itself, but the fan base division is going to be horrible after this game. I know that there are going to be some people that are just like, man, the fan base is still going to believe in Levis after this. They're not. I'm sorry. Like, there's going to be two halves of the fan base. I am on the side of that I think it's just week 1 and that I think we're brushing off a little bit of old dust, and that I think that it's ridiculous to just completely overreact and be like, oh yeah, this team sucks. Because first off, we don't know how Chicago is going to look the rest of the season. Second off, we obviously know that there's definitely room to improve for this team and that there is definitely still potential there. And third off, it's the fact that defense still played lights out. So if the offense can at least become like okay, then this team is going to be at least a decent team. And then there's the other side of the fan base, which thinks Will Levis isn't the guy. Bench him for Mason Rudolph. Tank the rest of the season. Go get like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or Carson Beck in the draft next year. No, I just don't see that, honestly. Not after week 1. But I do see kind of the ideology behind it because, Will Levis wasn't really that proven last season. He had the new coaching staff and he still didn't play all that great. Combine that with the fact that the play calling wasn't great. Like, I can see the sides for both sides. It's just I lean towards more this side because I think it's a little bit more logical. But still, I mean, like, honestly, next week is still going to be tough because that's a better defense than Chicago has, at least from what we can tell right now. Who knows? Maybe they get cooked on Monday Night Football, and that should help us. But anyway, fan division, again, we expected it after week 1, but if we would have won, let's just say things would have been a lot more happy within the Titans fan base. Okay, so overall, my overall opinions. Like I said this a lot during this episode, and I'll say it again. It's week 1. There's no reason to just be like, Titans suck. This team is going to go 0-17. We're going to be picking number 1 overall, and we're going to get Carson Beck with that first pick. Like, that's a complete over-exaggeration. Like, come on now. We didn't look like the Giants. We didn't look like the Panthers. We didn't look like either of those teams, which will be competing for the first overall pick, and will probably drop their quarterbacks after this year. Like, we still looked like we can at least be competitive, which competitiveness will at least lead to me at least, like a 7-10 record. So there's that. But other thing is that, again, week 1 is a horrible basis to go off of for what your team's going to look like for the rest of the season. We lost 38-13 in week 1 in 2021. And let me tell you this, that did not change the course of this season. That season was one of the best seasons the Titans have had in recent history. So, like, what's the point here, right? Like, if we're going to say that the Titans automatically suck in week 1, then there's no point in playing the rest of the games, right? Like, there's no point in letting the team play, letting the team develop. Nope, we're just going to suck for the rest of the season. But I do also want to say this, like, here's the thing. I feel like that in the midst of the bad game that Levis had, that we're forgetting about the great flashes that he showed last year. We're forgetting about the 4-touchdown game he had against Atlanta. We're forgetting about the comeback that he led during the game against... We're forgetting about the comeback that he led in the game against the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. We're forgetting about the Steelers game where he kept us in it the entire game. Like, we're forgetting about those moments. Just wait. Like, just wait. Okay? We are going to be okay this year. And I truly believe that. Another thing, next week we are at home. So maybe, and I think that Levis wants vengeance. Like, he seemed upset during that press conference. Like, I think that this was a nice wake-up call to him, that he can't just go lollygagging around throwing crappy passes and just expect to win a game even though he has bad turnovers. Like, I want y'all to think about this for a second. Like he said in his press conference, Will Levis has not had a single game in his NFL career so far where he has forcefully given the game to the other team. He didn't have that at all last season. So, with this, it makes me feel like that the Titans will at least bounce back next week. And I think that we will beat the Jets. Not because I'm confident in the offense just yet. I'm confident that in the defense, and I'm very confident that Aaron Rodgers will not be able to avoid pressure like Caleb Williams was able to just recently. So, again, overall, it's week 1, and we're completely blowing this out of proportion. Like, we should not be just all like, Titans are going to suck this year. We got to give it a little bit of time. Okay, if we're still playing like this in like week 4 or 5, then I'll get on the hype train with y'all and be like, yeah, Titans suck. We're not going to be that good this year, and we're just going to have to wait to go get another quarterback. But I don't expect that. I expect this team to evolve. I expect the play calling to get better by Brian Callahan. And I expect other things. Like, I expect J.C. Latham to get better. I expect the O-line in general to get better. I expect Will Levis to slowly get a little better and slowly get more comfortable in the offense as the season goes on. I am expecting these things. I'm expecting the defense to also stay pretty solid and consistent. So, I'm shifting my ideology to how the season is going to go from instead of it being like immediately we're really good, I think that we're going to start out the year a little slow, right? 2-4 start maybe. I think we're going to start picking it up. We're going to get hot. And then we're going to end the year like 7-10, 8-9, 9-8. Go on a nice little win streak. Give hope for next season. Give optimism for Will Levis being the guy. Because as long as we know that, it's going to be okay. Okay? Because either Will Levis is bad and we go get another quarterback who indeed could very well end up being like, he could very well end up being somebody like a Cam Ward or, Quinn Ewers, Shedeur Sanders. Those are some of my favorite quarterbacks in the draft this year, personally. So, like, if we got, like, one of those guys, like, I would be completely confident that this team can still be decent. Like, I'm interested to see what it would look like if Brian Callahan built a quarterback by himself. Like, I think that if Levis is bad, then we can go get a quarterback that Brian Callahan can build from the ground up, and I think that we could contend pretty quickly with that quarterback. He'd be going into a great situation. But then also, if Will Levis is good, then that means that we're going to be just fine. We're going to be all right? Like, we have our guy, and we can continue with that momentum that we had this season. But anyway, I got on a little bit of a rant at the end of there. That's the end of this episode. I have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok all under the Titans Rundown. If y'all want to go follow them, I'll have that in the description. And I would really appreciate it if y'all liked and subscribed. I really need a morale boost right now because even though I tried to make this feel fine, it still was not a good loss. Like, we should have won that game. But still, I would really appreciate it. It would boost my morale. It would make me a lot more happy. And just overall, I would really appreciate it. But anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans. I love y'all, and tighten up.